it's not the only thing that's going on right here and right now. There's also a lot of happiness too, and a lot of uncertainty and many, many other things. But I felt it was important to acknowledge this and then sort of swing this around to the topic that I'd like to discuss today, which is really being present with what is now. So one of my first teachers of meditation used to ask, where are you now? In the middle of the meditation, where are you now? Where are you now? And this question asks us to look at if and how often we're present. And it was a reminder to simply come back to where we are now, to maybe our chosen focus of meditation, which for many of us is breathing, watching our breath in and out, or maybe it's the center, or maybe it's ever changing. What I can ask is, my mind wandering? Are we wandering? Am I thinking and thinking? Am I daydreaming? Am I dreaming of the future? Are memories popping up, different thoughts, and then each thought leading to another one and another one endlessly? And we seem to be wired to do anything except be with what is right here, right now. It just seems to be part of human nature, and I think we're strange creatures in that way. But at least speaking for myself, that's always happening, often happening. And meditation helps diffuse that. So I decided to have a look at a book that I've read parts of before. It's called Mindfulness in Plain English. Some of you may have read it or may have heard it. Yeah, Harry's nodding, right? It's by Venerable H. Gunaratana, who was a Buddhist monk born in 1927 in Sri Lanka. He was ordained at age 12 and then given a higher ordination at age 20. The esteemed monk spent many years teaching and conducting retreats in Western countries, probably in the beginning in the late 60s and on for many decades after that. His book is a step-by-step manual on the profound Buddhist practice known as insight meditation or Vipassana. And it's not a philosophical book, it's not a theoretical book, it's a very accessible book. And it gives a system. Vipassana is a system to give insight into nothing less than the nature of reality and an accurate understanding of how everything works. That's pretty big. And much of what I'll share going forward is from that book or from my thoughts that I've been inspired about from that book. So let's go back to, why on earth do we meditate? It's not easy. It takes determination, it takes time, discipline, and energy. And, wouldn't it be easier to just do something else? You could turn on the TV or find a distraction. Or maybe find a really productive distraction. That's a good idea. And then I could sort of dive into that and feel, okay, I'm doing something, but I may not be present while I'm doing that something. And then meanwhile, deep down, you hope and you probably know that there's got to be another way to live than just avoidance, and a way to touch, even if you're not so avoidant, to touch life more fully. And good things can come. Maybe you get a new job, maybe you find a wonderful relationship. But that satisfaction, no matter how good that situation is not permanent, and it will change. It might be great, and it might change into something even greater, or it might diminish, but it will change. And when it does, that good thing goes away. We start to go, oh, what's wrong? What's wrong with me? That happens. There's really nothing wrong. That's the way the world works, and we're human, and that's just the way it is, I think. So yeah, we still want things to get better anyway. We don't give up. That didn't work out. I like that. It went away. Now I want it back. So we don't give up. We still want things to get better, and off we go again. And then we start thinking, well, only if this happens, or only if that doesn't happen. And there we are. We're stuck in a complicated Gordian knot that we've taken our whole lifetime to create. And we get really good at that. And what we really want is to end suffering. And what we really want is happiness and peace. It's not that we don't want the car, or that we don't want the new job or the great relationship. Those are means to the end. And suffering, happiness, peace, those are the prime issues of our lives. And the problem is that we think that if we control everything and we get what we want, we'll find happiness. But he says in his book, it doesn't work that way. And as much as we wish it, we can't control everything. Logically and intellectually, we know we can't control everything. And even the most powerful people in the world can't control everything. No one gets everything they want, and no one is an island, and everyone dies. But to deeply understand this on a non-intellectual level is a different matter altogether. To truly change our understanding, and therefore change ourselves in this way, is difficult. You can't make radical changes in the patterns of your life until you begin to see yourself exactly as you are now. When you start to see yourself, or when you see that, changes will begin to occur naturally. And you won't have to force or struggle to obey rules directed to you, or even by an authority, or even by yourself. That struggle will lessen. But you must see who you are and how you are without illusion, without judgment or resistance. It's not easy to do. It takes a long time. You got to see your place in society, see your function, your duties, and your obligations to fellow beings, and above all, your responsibilities to yourself as an individual living with other individuals. We need to see this clearly. Mental growth through meditation is a major way to achieve this sort of understanding and serene happiness. Might be the way. Certainly there are psychological paths, and Freud and history of social understanding of ourselves. I think those have a place as well. But the key takeaway here is that you can learn to control your mind. You can step outside of the endless cycle of desire and aversions. And I think when we can learn not to want so desperately what we think we want, and we recognize desires but are not controlled by them, that's when we can start freeing ourselves from this endless cycle. When we reach a new viewpoint that is liberated in this way from our obsessive compulsive drive of desires, we can find freedom from the cycle. You can want something, but you don't need to chase after it. You might feel fearful about something, but you don't need to stand there quaking in your boots. Trying to control everything is impossible. Changing our mental outlook in this way to not control everything is difficult, but it's not impossible. And that's profound to me, because I'd rather choose the difficult over the impossible, if that's a black and white choice there. And if meditation is a path to help get there, well, then I think it's worth the effort. Now, each step Each day, each time you meditate, you're bringing yourself along in this process. The Buddha said, what you are now is a result of what you were. What you will be tomorrow is the result of what you are now. You guys are following this so far? If I'm being unclear, just let me know. Okay, with insight meditation, like what we do here at MMI, because remember there are many, many types of meditations. With insight meditation, we learn to be present with whatever's going on. We learn that we can become aware of all of our experiences. We step back and we notice, ideally without trying to change anything. That's the practice. It may sound simple, but certainly it's not always easy. Simple isn't always easy. Being fully present in every single moment is a lofty goal. And it may not be very practical for us to expect full-time awareness. But what we can do is shrink the spaces between the awareness. Oh, we're aware in this moment, and now we're not. Now we're aware in this moment. Well, how about it? Over time, maybe that'll get a little bit, maybe it's this moment and this moment and this moment. So why is it suggested that we practice in this way if we're not naturally wired for it? If at least it doesn't seem that we're naturally wired for it. Meditation is a living activity, and it's an inherently experiential activity. You might think of it as a personal testing lab. And we can read and listen to talks but in order to see what this is about, we have to experience it ourselves. Certainly the words on the page or the talks just represent ideas. They're not the thing themselves. So again, the point I'm bringing out here is this is an experiential activity. A little aside, when my kids first started school here in New York City, I was first open to what progressive education was about. And it's really experiential. It was less of teachers telling you, learn this, learn that, take this in, and more of touching, doing, experiencing. I think that's a terrific way to learn. So with this kind of experiential learning through meditation, the Buddha said it's actually possible for each and every one of us to become enlightened. And meditation is emphasized in these practices as a way to become enlightened. And that sounds really good, but I don't think that's the point that we want to dwell on at this level, or at least I'll speak for myself. I'm not a monk. I have a job and a family, and I do all kinds of things. And I don't think it's realistic necessarily to focus on that. And actually dwelling on the goal of enlightenment, I think, is misguided, and it just gets in the way. It's in the way of your progress, of our progress. Staying in the here and now with your practice lets the progress take care of itself. I may be telling you things that you all have heard before, and that I hope that's okay. But again, staying in the here and now and just doing the practice. Just sit. Don't worry about the results. Just come back over and over again. Be gentle, be forgiving of yourself when your mind wanders, when you're thinking, oh, I really want to feel calm and I'm not. Now, there are many hindrances that get in the way of meditation and life. And I'm not going to go through all those now because that's enough for a different teaching. But I do see meditation practice as an opportunity to just really watch and look at what's going on. When I'm busy doing other activities, I often miss what I'm really experiencing. And speaking for myself, this causes problems. I think it causes problems for all of us, but I can speak for myself. When I'm not paying attention to what's really going on as best as I can, I make mistakes. I can have attitude problems. I can have health problems and relationship problems. All kinds of things start happening that I would really rather not. It doesn't help my life to move on a peaceful path. So the meditative experience can lead to a better understanding of what I'm actually feeling and thinking and sensing. And then it leads me to have a better chance to deal with the things that happen in the course of the day. That's huge. It takes me out of the reactiveness, and like Sonia said, I have a pause sometimes before I react. And by practicing this in meditation, it can bring perspective, it can bring patience. And in meditation, it can also put you face to face with difficult emotions and difficult thoughts. So it's not always rosy, but life isn't always rosy either. So if I don't fall prey to fear, even those painful insights can incrementally improve the experience of my life, and thereby also improve the lives of those that I'm connected with as well. And simply what I mean by that is I might be more pleasant to be around, or I might be more generous, or I might not raise my voice if I'm a little angry. And I think all of this works behind the scenes. It works throughout the days. So I suggested that we practice without expectations and show up for practice regularly. Doesn't matter if you're, think something that Joseph Goldstein once said, if you're having a hard time getting yourself to practice, just go sit in your spot. Don't expect anything more. Just go sit there for a moment. Get yourself into your position where your typical spot is. It helps you to practice regularly. Okay, so let's look at the experiences just a little bit further. Keep track of time as well. Okay, our human experiences are basically made up of three types of sensations. They're physical sensations, there are thoughts, and there are feelings or emotions. And basically, there's really nothing else that we experience, as I've been taught. I haven't thought of anything else. If anybody has one, great. But pretty much that's our world. Physical, thoughts, and then emotions. This is our consciousness. It's our human way of contact with the world, and it's where we can see what's happening. It's where we do see what's happening. It's the only place. Further on with this, these sensations in Buddhist teachings are divided into feeling tones. There's pleasant tone, unpleasant tone, and neutral. And those feeling tones just happen on their own. Something comes up and you go, I like that. I don't like that. Or I don't really care about that. Also, every sensation comes and goes. They arise, they have a beginning, and they exist, and then they depart. That's also the teaching. So they're not solid, and they're said to be impermanent. So with all these sensations, there's a tiny moment before we perceive what they are, before we identify the sensation. The example of this is often when you cited about a story about when you hear a dog bark. You hear the dog bark, and first there are sound waves that reach our ears. And then not quite at the same time, but almost immediately after, we determine that's a dog. It feels like an instant, but it actually has a moment where it has to register. And then we can imagine that dog. Maybe we might even, without even thinking, we imagine, oh, that's a big dog. It's a scary dog, like the one that chased me down the street when I was a kid. Or maybe it's a sweet, lovable dog and it's ready to jump up on my lap and be really loving. And very naturally, we have an unpleasant tone with the scary dog. We want it to go away. And we want the lovable one to stay with the pleasant tone. We haven't even seen the dog. This all just went on. This is what we experienced. Maybe it wasn't even a dog. Maybe it was a sound that sounded like a dog. But there was that split second before our perception told us dog. And then right after that, we're off chasing the unpleasant feeling away, or we're off wanting that pleasant feeling to stay. Now, I'm going to say there's nothing wrong with this. This is the way we work. But if we don't have to get caught in that cycle of that and have our chance to not react, I think that we have a better chance at dealing with the world a little better. That moment is called bare experience, and it seems to be short moment, free of judgment. And that's what our body and mind do with these experiences. We can train ourselves to master this rather than be at the mercy of it. And I think even if we're not quick enough to notice bare experience, like a Zen master might do, we do have the ability to see the experience of sensations without getting caught up in an endless story. And to me, there's a lot of value in that moment, because that's where we're not expecting ourselves to be something that we may not be at yet. But with meditation practice, the stories lose their juice. At least sometimes they do, and more often they do. And we become better at managing them. And this kind of practice translates beyond the meditation cushion and becomes really helpful during our days, during our daily activities. So back to focusing on goals for a second. Beware about focusing on goals and focusing on achievements. I find it's really subtle. It sneaks up in all sorts of ways. So practice avoiding that trap. And I think a way we can avoid that is to go back to what is happening right now. Where are we right now? Just this moment, and then this moment, one breath at a time. Just returning to where we are right now, to our concentration, to the center of your body, your breath, your mantra, whatever it may be at that time. Do it without judgment. That's the part. Without judgment when we wander, and with kindness, a kind determination that's not rigid, but is understanding. Oh, okay, I wandered, okay. Allow space to be open to each present experience of life, whether it's pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. There's certainly a caution on that is if you find that you're going down some rabbit hole of really upsetting yourself and the story's spinning off in all sorts of directions, I wouldn't advise that. But I would say our painful experiences do not represent failure. Painful experiences are part of life, as much as happy experiences are. They're not failure. So there's no wrong way to sit with this. And so when we sit, find your balance between concentration and calm and consciousness. Many people, at least I do, I often start my sitting by practicing just concentration and calm so that I can reach a point of stillness, or at least stiller than I began, so that I can then watch the passing show of these emotions and these feelings and these sensations, these thoughts. If I start out trying to watch that passing show without settling, then there's too much. It's like trying to watch a film in fast forward motion going, a million frames a second. You can't do it. But if you can bring yourself to some calm, centered stillness, then things will come. Like, oh, look at that. How long does that last? Okay. Thanks for coming. Oh, that's gone. Back to my breath. I'm far from an expert at this, believe me, but that's what I've been working with, and I'm sharing that, and hopefully to help you. Just sit is what many Zen masters teach for concentration. And may have a whole, here's what I've experienced in meditation, here's what I've been experienced. And they might say, very nice, just sit. Just sit. For me, just sit works sometimes, oftentimes, as a way to stop the chatter. I say just sit, and if I'm just sitting, but I'm talking to myself, I'm not really just sitting. So that one happens to work for me. What's this is another phrase that I like to think of when I see different things coming up. Oh, what's this? What's this? How long will it last? How intense is it? Okay, it's gone. Let's come back to my breathing or my concentration. So thank you for listening to all of this. I hope it's been helpful. I'll sum it up this way. It is in meditation, just as in all of life, whether on or off the cushion, standing, sitting, lying down, or walking, where the here and now is the only place where we can experience consciousness and gain a clear awareness of what is happening as it happens. I'll say that again. The here and now is the only place where we can experience consciousness and gain a clear awareness of what is happening as it happens. Your practice can show you the truth, and your own experience is the only thing that counts. And thank you for listening. I hope it shed some light for folks.